When the gate agent told me about the pregnant woman who missed her connection and was stranded for 2 days while her military husband waited for her in Arizona, I knew I had to help, despite airline policy. As a commercial pilot who understood that sometimes regulations need to take a back seat to humanity, I let Sofia into the observer seat in my cockpit. You won't believe what happened next. I never expected her to go into labor at 35,000 feet, or that successfully delivering her baby would lead to the most incredible flight of my career when her husband Paul arranged for F-16 fighter jets to escort my plane as a thank you. Sometimes when you choose compassion over company rules, the universe finds a way to honor your decision in ways that take your breath away. Hi everyone, welcome to Life's Changing Stories. Now, let's dive into today's story. The familiar pre-flight routine that Captain Alice Reynolds followed before every commercial flight had become both a source of comfort and professional pride over her 15 years of flying for Skyline Airlines, representing the careful attention to safety protocols and operational procedures that had earned her a reputation as one of the most reliable and respected pilots in the company's fleet of Boeing 737 aircraft. At 43, Alice had logged over 12,000 flight hours while maintaining a perfect safety record that reflected her commitment to protecting passengers and crew through meticulous preparation, careful decision-making, and the kind of professional competence that made even the most nervous travelers feel confident about their upcoming journey. Alice's approach to commercial aviation combined technical expertise with genuine care for passenger welfare, understanding that her responsibility extended beyond simply operating the aircraft to include ensuring that every person on board felt safe, informed, and cared for during their travel experience. She took particular pride in handling challenging situations with calm professionalism, whether dealing with mechanical issues, weather delays, or passenger emergencies that required quick thinking and clear communication to resolve successfully without compromising safety or causing unnecessary anxiety. The morning flight from Boston to Phoenix represented a routine cross-country trip that Alice had flown hundreds of times, following established airways and standard operating procedures while coordinating with air traffic control centers to maintain safe separation from other aircraft and optimal flight paths that minimized fuel consumption and arrival delays. Her first officer, Captain Tom Bradley, was an experienced pilot whose competence and reliability made their cockpit coordination smooth and efficient, allowing them to focus on passenger service and flight management rather than basic operational concerns. This particular Tuesday morning had started with normal pre-flight preparations until the gate agent approached Alice with information about a passenger situation that would require her decision about whether to follow company policy or make an exception based on humanitarian concerns that went beyond standard airline procedures. Captain Reynolds, the gate agent said, approaching Alice as she completed her external aircraft inspection, "We have a situation with a passenger who missed her connection yesterday. She's heavily pregnant and extremely distressed because all flights to Phoenix are cancelled for the next 2 days due to weather." Alice followed the gate agent to the boarding area where she found a young woman in her late 20s sitting in a wheelchair with tears streaming down her face, clearly exhausted and overwhelmed by circumstances that had left her stranded far from home during the final stages of pregnancy, when travel should have been carefully planned and medically supervised. "This is Sofia Martinez," the gate agent explained. "Her husband is stationed at Davis Air Force Base, and she was supposed to arrive yesterday evening. She has a doctor's clearance to fly, but she's obviously in distress about being separated from her family when the baby could arrive at any time." Alice knelt down to speak with Sofia directly, immediately recognizing the combination of physical discomfort and emotional stress that pregnant women experienced when facing unexpected travel complications during the vulnerable final weeks before delivery. "My husband, Paul, is an Air Force technical sergeant," Sofia explained, her voice breaking with emotion and exhaustion. "He's on emergency leave waiting for me, and I can't reach him because the phone lines are down due to the storm. I'm scared about being alone if the baby comes early." Alice's first officer, Tom Bradley, pointed out that their flight was already at full capacity with no available seats for additional passengers, making it impossible to accommodate Sofia without violating Federal Aviation Administration regulations about passenger capacity and safety requirements. However, Alice remembered the observer seat in the cockpit, a position technically reserved for airline inspectors, federal air marshals, and authorized personnel conducting official business. That could provide Sofia with transportation while keeping her under direct supervision during the flight in case medical assistance became necessary. "Company policy strictly prohibits unauthorized personnel in the cockpit," Tom warned, understanding that allowing Sofia to occupy the observer seat could result in disciplinary action or termination if airline management discovered the violation. Alice thought about her own experience years earlier when her wife had gone into premature labor while Alice was flying cargo routes, leaving her helpless and desperate to return home while being thousands of miles away during a medical emergency that could have resulted in complications for both mother and baby. "Some rules exist to be broken at the right moment," Alice decided, telling the gate agent to bring Sofia aboard and help her get settled in the cockpit where Alice could monitor her condition while providing the transportation she desperately needed. Sofia entered the cockpit with obvious gratitude, settling carefully into the observer seat while Alice explained the safety procedures and communication protocols that would apply during their flight to Phoenix. Sofia expressed her appreciation for Alice's willingness to help, mentioning that her husband Paul, who worked in aircraft maintenance on F-16 fighters, had taught her that good pilots know when to follow their instincts rather than blindly adhering to regulations that might not account for unusual circumstances. The takeoff from Boston was smooth and routine, with Sofia appearing comfortable and occasionally asking questions about the aircraft instruments and navigation systems that her husband had taught her to recognize during their conversations about military aviation and Air Force operations. 40 minutes into what should have been a routine 2-hour flight, Sofia's voice suddenly tightened with pain as she doubled over with a contraction that indicated her labor was beginning 3 weeks earlier than expected. "The baby's coming," Sofia gasped, her breathing becoming rapid and shallow as another contraction gripped her body. "This can't be happening now." Alice's emergency training immediately activated as she radioed Phoenix Approach to declare a medical emergency and request immediate diversion to Flagstaff Regional Airport, the nearest facility with medical services capable of handling an emergency childbirth situation. Flight attendants arrived with the aircraft's medical kit, accompanied by a passenger who identified herself as a registered nurse and volunteered to assist with the delivery if medical intervention became necessary before they could reach suitable ground-based facilities. A sudden jolt of turbulence rocked the aircraft, and the nurse urgently informed Alice that Sofia's labor was progressing too rapidly for them to reach any airport before the baby arrived. "This baby is coming right now," the nurse announced. "We're not going to make it to any hospital." Alice maintained her calm, professional demeanor while informing Phoenix Approach that they had imminent childbirth on board and requesting priority handling with an ambulance standing by for immediate medical assistance upon landing. "Cleared direct to Phoenix," Air Traffic Control responded. "Emergency equipment will be standing by." For the next 30 minutes, Alice flew the smoothest flight of her career while coordinating with air traffic control, managing cockpit communications, and keeping passengers calm during an unprecedented situation that required her complete focus and professional competence. The soft cry of a newborn baby filled the cockpit as Sofia successfully delivered her son with assistance from the volunteer nurse, bringing tears to Alice's eyes as she realized they had safely managed an emergency that could have resulted in tragedy if not handled with skill and compassion. "Baby delivered successfully," Alice reported to air traffic control. "Mother and child appear stable, requesting immediate landing clearance." "Congratulations, Skyline 447, the controller responded. "Outstanding work up there." The landing at Phoenix Sky Harbor was one of the smoothest in Alice's career, and paramedics immediately boarded the aircraft to provide professional medical evaluation for Sofia and her newborn son. As Sofia was being prepared for transport to the hospital, she thanked Alice for saving both their lives through her willingness to help and her skill in managing the emergency. "You did all the hard work," Alice replied humbly. "I just flew the plane." As Sofia was wheeled off the aircraft, she called back that her husband Paul would definitely want to meet Alice and thank her personally for the extraordinary kindness and professional competence that had ensured his family's safety during such a critical moment. Alice assumed this would be the last she heard about the incident, expecting it to become simply another entry in her logbook and a story she would share occasionally with other pilots about the unusual challenges that could arise during routine commercial flights. The next morning, Alice was flying her regular route back to Denver when her radio suddenly crackled with a transmission delivered in the precise, authoritative tone that immediately identified military communication. "Skyline 447, this is Luke Air Force Base. Maintain your current heading and altitude. You have military escort." Alice looked out her left window and felt her heart skip several beats when she saw an F-16 Fighting Falcon flying in perfect formation just off her wingtip, close enough for her to see the pilot's helmet and facial features through the aircraft's canopy. A second F-16 appeared on her right wing moments later, creating an escort formation that drew gasps of amazement from passengers and crew members throughout her aircraft. "Captain Reynolds," came another voice over the radio, filled with emotion and gratitude that made Alice's throat tighten with recognition. "This is Technical Sergeant Paul Martinez, United States Air Force. I want to thank you for delivering my son at 35,000 feet and bringing my wife home safely." The pieces immediately clicked for Alice as she realized that Sofia's husband had arranged this unprecedented demonstration of military appreciation for her actions during the emergency childbirth that had saved his family. "Your actions went beyond normal duty and pilot responsibility," Sergeant Martinez continued, his voice carrying the weight of personal gratitude that transcended military protocol and professional courtesy. "In the Air Force, we take care of our own, and after what you did yesterday, you're definitely one of ours." Major Carmen Rodriguez, the lead F-16 pilot, joined the radio conversation to commend Alice's flying skills and emergency management capabilities that had enabled a successful childbirth while maintaining safe flight operations under unprecedented pressure and challenging circumstances. "Leadership and exceptional airmanship start at the top," Major Rodriguez said, "and your flying yesterday was absolutely exceptional." Alice felt overwhelmed by the gesture from these military pilots who flew the most advanced fighter aircraft in the world and were taking time from their training missions to honor a commercial airline pilot who had simply done what seemed right under difficult circumstances. Passengers throughout the cabin were pressed against windows, taking photographs and videos of the F-16s flying in perfect formation with their airliner, creating a memorable experience that none of them would ever forget. "We'll be leaving you here," Sergeant Martinez announced as the F-16s prepared to return to Luke Air Force Base. "But you have an open invitation to visit our base whenever you're in Arizona." Sophia and baby Alice want to meet you properly. Baby Alice? Alice asked, her voice catching with emotion as she processed the significance of what Sergeant Martinez had just revealed. Sofia insisted on naming our daughter Alice Sofia Martinez after the pilot who delivered her safely into the world, Paul explained, his gratitude evident in every word. Colonel Sarah Thompson, the commanding officer of Luke Air Force Base, also joined the radio conversation to express her appreciation for Alice's actions and to extend a formal invitation to visit the base for a ceremony recognizing her exceptional airmanship and humanitarian service. 2 weeks later, Alice visited Luke Air Force Base carrying flowers for Sofia and a stuffed airplane for baby Alice, participating in a ceremony held in a hangar filled with F-16s and attended by Air Force personnel who wanted to honor the civilian pilot who had demonstrated the finest traditions of aviation service. Sofia placed baby Alice in the captain's arms, telling her that the baby had inherited Alice's calm under pressure and would always know the story of the pilot who had ensured her safe arrival into the world. Technical Sergeant Paul Martinez, who maintained the engines of the F-16s that had escorted Alice's flight, expressed his profound gratitude for Alice's actions and her willingness to risk her career to help his family during their moment of greatest need. Alice felt accepted into a brotherhood that transcended the differences between military and civilian aviation, united by shared values of service, professionalism, and the understanding that flying was ultimately about serving others and being ready when people needed help most. 6 months later, Alice was still flying commercial routes for Skyline Airlines. But something fundamental had changed in her approach to her work and her understanding of what it meant to be a professional pilot. The airline had not disciplined her for violating cockpit access policies, instead featuring her story in their safety training program as an example of when humanitarian concerns should override routine procedures. Alice's logbook now included a unique entry: emergency delivery, mother and child safe, pilot honored by United States Air Force, serving as a permanent reminder that the most important moments in aviation often occur when regulations step aside for humanity and when doing the right thing leads to something extraordinary that transforms both the lives of those we help and our own understanding of what service really means. We hope you enjoyed today's story of love, life, and betrayal. For more free stories and entertainment from our channel, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe with notifications.